Thank you. It was a great privilege to be elected moderator beginning yesterday for this 2022 annual town meeting. The first order of business is to report on the elections, both for official and for the referenda held yesterday. For selectmen for the 3-year term, Wendy Littlefield, 106 votes elected, and Rick Moores, 91 votes elected. For school board, 1-year term, Gail Marshall, 110 votes elected. For school board, 3-year term, Jared Kushlock, 87 votes elected, and Jenica Pico, 50 write-in votes elected. For school trustee, a 2-year term, Juliana Bennett, 111 votes elected. And for school trustee, a 3-year term, Carol Plenty, 106 votes elected. I would ask if you would join with me in congratulating all of those elected officials and ask any of those who wish to be sworn in to come forward.
Since we all have different offices, we'll do them one at a time. Let's see. Gail, you'd like to raise your right hand and read your oath?
I, Gail Marshall, swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and the laws thereof. I, Gail Marshall, swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities the duties incumbent on me as a member of the Sonysville for 1-year term beginning May 3, 2022, according to the Constitution and laws of the state of Maine.
I, James Morgan, swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and this state, as long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. I, James F. Morgan, swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my ability the duties incumbent upon me as a selection for the town of Mount Desert for a 3-year term beginning May 3rd, 2022, according to the Constitution and the laws of the state, so help me God.
I, Wendy H. Littlefield, swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and this state so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. I, Wendy H. Littlefield, swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities the duties incumbent on me as a selectman for the town of Mount Desert for a 3-year term beginning May 3rd, 2022, according to the Constitution and the law of the state, so help me God.
I, Jared F. Kushlock, do swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and this state, so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. I, Jared F. Kushlock, do swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities the duties incumbent on me as a member of the Mount Desert Elementary School Board for a 3-year term beginning May 3rd, 2022, according to the Constitution and the law of the state, so help me God.
I, Carol Plenty, do swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and this state so long as I shall continue a citizen
matters that were voted on yesterday. Article 3, a charter amendment, passed with 91 in favor, 2 opposed, and 27 blanks. Also, I guess we'd call it a remedial referendum dating back to a vote that was had at the town meeting by voice vote rather than written ballot back in 1991, allowing the state to regulate Sunday liquor sales. That passed with 105 in favor, 12 opposed, and 3 blanks. Next, that concludes Article 3 and Article 4. Article 5, to see if non-voters shall be allowed and recognized to speak during the 2022 annual town meeting. This requires a 2/3 vote in favor. With this article, as with all other articles, I'll be looking to the warrant committee to make a motion and deposit it, so that when we debate the motion, it's easier to understand sides are on as to whether we're approving the motion or opposing it. We've had green cards. We had once pink slips, which made me a little nervous, but today we have blue cards. And when we're voting by hand counts, we'll be asking the voters to raise their blue cards. Another thing that's important to pick up is a raffle ticket. We have 3 items that are being raffled. We don't have the actual items, but we have virtual displays of them as photographs there. Jen is holding them up. We'll allow the first person winning the first raffle to have her or his choice of which of those 3. The second person, her or his choice of the remaining 2. And then the third lucky winner will get the other item that remains. We'll have at least 2 write-in votes tonight. Because there's a lag time after we have finished voting while the votes are being tabulated, we plan to use those spaces to do 2 raffles for the first write-in, and for the second write-in, the third raffle, and then we have a couple of presentations to make. If anybody can't hear any speaker, please wave your hand, or if I'm missing somebody, please let me know if I am not failing to call on a person whose hand is up. We're very lucky to be wearing so many different colored outfits here tonight, and sometimes it's frankly just hard to see somebody when a hand is up. So we'll then turn to Article 5, to see if non-voters shall be allowed, when recognized, to speak during the 2022 annual town meeting. Is there a motion?
The warrant committee recommends passage.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 5. Question, debate, comment? Hearing none, we'll call Article 5 on for a voice vote. All those in favor of approving Article 5 as moved by the warrant committee, if you would so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It's the moderator's opinion that this passes by more than a 2/3 vote, and therefore we will allow non-voters, when recognized, to speak during this meeting. Article 6. Shall an ordinance dated May 3rd, 2022, entitled Town of Mount Desert Alewife Ordinance be enacted? The ordinance reads in its entirety, regulations for the keeping of alewives and blueback herring shall be as follows. For the next year, July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023, there shall be no taking of alewives and blueback herring in the town of Mount Desert. Is there a motion?
Warrant committee recommends passage.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 6. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 6 for a vote. All those in favor of enacting the ordinance as described in Article 6, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 6, the ordinance passes as written. I just heard a good sigh of relief from the alewives. Article 7, shall an ordinance dated May 3rd, 2022, entitled Public Right-of-Way Ordinance be amended? Is there a motion?
The warrant committee recommends passage.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 7. Question, comment, or debate? Hearing none, we'll call 7 on for a vote. those in favor of passing the ordinance as appears in the appendix to this warrant article and as moved by the warrant committee, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. Moderator, 7 of the 4 passes. Article 8. Shall an ordinance entitled Town of Mount Desert Shellfish Conservation Ordinance be amended as follows? And then with 3 sections showing 1 ordinance section being eliminated and 2 additional ones enacted. Is there a motion?
The Warrant Committee recommends passage. Second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 8. Question or discussion or comment? Hearing none, we'll call Article 8 on for a vote. All those in favor of motion before us to recommend passage of changes to the ordinance, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, nay. Opinion of the moderator, Article 8 then passes as written. Article 9. Shall an ordinance entitled Town of Mount Desert Sewer Ordinance be amended as follows? And there appears a portion of the ordinance that would be eliminated. Is there a motion?
Warrant Committee recommends passage. And seconded.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 9. Question or comment? Hearing none, we'll call Article 9 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion that Article 9 passes. Shall an ordinance dated May 2022 entitled Amendments to the Land Use Zoning Ordinance to change the land use district designated of tax map 009 Lot 10 Section 6 be enacted as set forth below, and then there is reference to an appendix to this warrant article. Is there a motion?
The Warrant Committee recommends passage. And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 10. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 10 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's the opinion of the moderator that Article 10 passes. Article 10. Article 11. Just check. Shall an ordinance dated May 3rd, 2022, titled Amendments to the Land Use Zoning Ordinance regarding accessory residential dwelling units for lots outside the shoreland zone be enacted as set forth below, and thereafter appears the new proposed section to the blue zone. Is there a motion?
There is. Warrant Committee recommends passage. And second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 11. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 11 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to recommend enactment of Article 11, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's the opinion of the moderator that Article 11 passes. Article 12. Shall an ordinance dated May 3rd, 2022 and entitled Amendments to the Land Use Zoning Ordinance, Section 4.5, Non-Conforming Lots, be enacted as set forth below. Thereafter appears 4.5 as it's proposed to be enacted. Is there a motion?
There is. The Warrant Committee recommends passage. And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 12. Comment, question, concerns? Yes.
Have one, can I go to the microphone?
Yes, please.
It's very quick. Hi, I'm Craig Neff. My wife and I started the Naturalist. Okay. Hi, I'm Craig Neff. My late wife, Tammy, and I started the Naturalist Notebook in Seal Harbor and Northeast Harbor. And even though this ordinance change seems like a very minor thing, it's actually very important with the continued existence of the notebook. We're in an ownership transfer, and with this simple matter will eliminate the last hurdle and ensure that the Naturalist Notebook continues. So I encourage everybody to vote yes. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that comment. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call Article 12 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to approve enactment of the proposed amendment, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion that article passes. Article 13. Shall an ordinance dated May 3rd, 2022, entitled Amendments to Section 7.4 Permit Application regarding photographic evidence of permits within the shoreline zone be enacted as set forth below, and thereafter appears the text of the proposed enactment. Is there a motion?
There is. Warrant committee recommends passage. And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 13. Question or comment? Hearing none, we'll call Article 13 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion that that article passes. Article 14. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept conditional gifts, unconditional gifts, equipment, proceeds from sale of fire equipment, or funds on behalf of the municipal fire department. It is understood that any funds received will be placed in the fire equipment reserve fund. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee would like to recommend passage.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 14. Questions, comments, discussion? Yes.
What's the condition of it?
Paul is asking what a conditional gift is. Does anyone want to?
I can address that. A conditional gift would be in a situation where an organization or a person wants to give the town money with strings attached, essentially, where we would be required to do something in exchange for that money, such as reporting requirements. Correct. It wouldn't exceed the gift itself. It's not like if we received money, the board would be authorized to spend above that gift that was received, if that's what you're asking.
Can everyone hear the exchange between Mr. Monfredo and Jake? All right, thank you very much. Thank you. So, any other questions with respect to Article 14? Hearing none, I'll call Article 14 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage of Article 14, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion that Article 14 has passed. Article 15. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to lease a portion of the so-called visitor center at the Northeast Harbor Marina to the ticket booth operators for a term of 1 year, beginning July 1, 2022, under such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen at sole discretion deems to be in the best interest of the town. Is there a motion?
There is. The warrant committee recommends passage. And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 15. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 15 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage of Article 15, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. As opposed, opposed, nay. It's the opinion of the moderator that Article 15 passes. Article 16, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to lease a portion of the so-called Visitor Center at the Northeast Harbor Marina to the Mount Desert Chamber of Commerce for a term of 1 year, beginning July 1, 2022, under such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen, in its sole discretion, deems to be in the best interest of the town. Is there a motion?
Yes, the Warrant Committee recommends passage.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 16. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 16 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to recommend passage of Article 16, if you would please so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The opinion of the moderator, Article 16 passes. Article 17, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate and enter into an agreement with the Neighborhood House Club, Inc., for management and maintenance of a municipal swimming pool under such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen, in its sole discretion, deems to be in the best interest of the town. Is there a motion?
Here is the Warrant Committee recommends passage.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 17. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 17 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage, if you would please so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Moderator's opinion that Article 17 passes. Article 18. Shall the town accept ownership of the Forest Hill Cemetery in the event the nonprofit organization that owns the cemetery is disbanded? There's been referenced an appendix to this warrant. Is there a motion?
Yes, the Warrant Committee would recommend passage.
Second it.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 18. Question, comment, or discussion? Yes.
Just a question in regards to if there were trust established for perpetual care for Forest Hills, and in my case, in my family, small family. I just want to make sure that those trusts, they're still in an active form. How does that get transferred over to the town if they should take it over? What's the legal aspect of that?
I can try to address that. So it's my understanding that this would be in the event that the money that the cemetery itself has is insufficient to continue operation. And so if there are any reserves that they have at that time, if the town takes over control, then it's my understanding that the town would negotiate an agreement on transferring those funds over for the continued operation of the cemetery at that time.
And if the trust happens to be held at the local bank, obviously they get involved in that to their own or whatever.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Okay, basically I just needed to know if the trust is held by the local bank, our family trust, will the bank and trust be the ones to negotiate between the people in the family as far as it being transferred over? It's just a chain of custody.
Right. Has this been discussed specifically before? Yeah, at the time, the cemetery would still need to come to the town. Representatives of the cemetery would come to the town to say it's time for the town to take it over. And at that time, it would be negotiated exactly how that works. And I'm sure that the representatives of the bank that are holding the funds would be involved in that process.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that discussion. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call Article 18 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage, if you would please so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's my opinion that Article 18 passes. Article 19. Shall the town of Mount Desert be authorized to issue a general obligation bond of note of the town in a principal amount not to exceed $344,000 to build a secure harbor network from the Mount Desert Fire Station in Sonysville to the meet point of the town of Bar Harbor at the intersection of the Eagle Lake Road and Route 3, extending into Northeast Harbor to terminate at the town of Mount Desert Municipal Office located at 21 C Street, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute all things necessary or convenient to issue the bond or note of the town, which may be callable to accomplish the project. Is there a motion?
There is. The warrant committee recommends passage.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage. Questions, or comments, or discussion with respect to Article 19? Hearing none, we'll call Article 19 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us, which is to recommend passage and the authorization as requested in Article 19, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The moderator's opinion that Article 19 is passed. Article 20. Shall the town of Mount Desert be authorized to issue general obligation bonds or notes of the town in the principal amount not to exceed $5,238,427 to fund improvements to the Northeast Harbor Fire Station, including but not limited to removing the roof and west wall of the truck bays, adding a new bay and a second story with staff quarters, and upgrading the electrical service, and further authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute all things necessary or convenient to issue the bonds or notes of the town, which may be callable and accomplish the project. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends passage.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage. And I'm going to ask if there's question, comment, or discussion. Chief Bender had approached me previously and asked if he could address us at this point.
No. Good evening. I know we have a lot of business at hand tonight, so I'll try to make this brief. I just wanted to give a quick overview of how we got here, and maybe a little bit of history, so try to answer maybe some questions and address some comments beforehand. Back in 2019, I provided the Board of Selectmen with a personnel analysis indicating that we were suffering from the loss of volunteers in the fire department. This is a trend that's been happening for probably the last 20 years. Every year we saw a decrease without being able to recruit new recruits coming in on the volunteer fire department. And I indicated to the board that this was alarming to me, and soon I believe that the fire department would be in the position that we would no longer be effective within the town. So they indicated, come back to me with some answers and let us know what the plan is for the future and how we can sustain the fire department within the town. At that time, we had enough staff. We had 4 full-time firefighters and myself, and we had enough staff to cover the town 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I indicated to the board again that we were pretty well maxed out as far as coverage goes, without actually going to a 24/7 schedule. And going to a 24/7 schedule would mean that we need to provide orders for our firefighters. So we started the process of coming up with some concept plans, and I want to get into details of how we went through the last 24 months, but we came up with multiple concept plans, multiple ideas, brought them to the board. They were all rejected for one reason or the other. And then it was during this time, towards the end of the second year, that the Northeast Harbor Ambulance came to the town and indicated that they themselves may no longer be able to sustain EMS coverage for the town. And it was pretty much for the same reasons, staffing issues, volunteers. It really came to a head in 2020 for them because of COVID. Just like many other public agencies, they were suffering from staffing due to COVID too as well. So they came to the town telling them that they didn't know how much longer they could last.
So we discussed this. We looked at our options, and the conclusion was the best option at that time was to have the fire department assume EMS operations for the town. So we kind of changed plans there on the fire stations. Our original idea was to make improvements to the Northeast Harbor Fire Station, and this is again for just the fire department. And I was going to have 2 firefighters on duty 24/7 to provide fire coverage for the town. Since we started taking, or since we looked like we were going to take over EMS, we had some discussions about how to best approach this. We came to the conclusion that we're going to have to staff more than 2 per shift. We're going to have to increase that to 4 because now we're not only running ambulances, but we're running fire trucks. And if we're going to have 4 per shift, it just made sense to split the shift and have 2 in Northeast Harbor and 2 in Sonysville. This is going to provide better coverage for the town overall, decrease response times, and provide a service to that part of the town, specifically Sonysville, Paul Quarry, pretty bars, that we could not service or at least be there in a good time, a response time. So last couple months ago, we had a special town meeting asking funds to approve renovations for the Sonysville Fire Department. That was approved. Those funds are ongoing right now. Those renovations are ongoing right now, and they are scheduled to be completed there sometime in September, I believe, September, October this year. During that time, we went through a recruiting process to start hiring more staff. That started in February, I believe. We worked through the next several months, and we hired 6 more individuals. And those 6 individuals have just started in the last week or 2. We're still too short. We want to get to, again, right now, 3 per shift. We're going to leave 1 open spot per shift right now because we are in ongoing conversations with Bar Harbor Fire Department to co-staff the Sonysville Fire Stations with 1 each. So as of now, we're going to leave 1 position open to see if we can finalize those negotiations and hopefully come back to you people next year with a proposal to the co-staff the Sonysville Fire Stations with Bar Harbor Fire. So right now, we're fully staffed, mostly fully staffed, and we are scheduled to go to 24/7 coverage on Monday, next Monday. This means that without any quarters, these individuals right now will be pretty much living in the town office. We've carved out, we've set up a bedroom conference room down there. We've carved out an office space that we put up some bunk rooms. It's rude. It's not ideal, but it's something that hopefully will get us through until the Sonysville Fire Station is done. Then we can move at least 2, maybe 3 firefighters up there to cover that area. And again, we're hoping this bond will be approved by your voters, and we'll start renovating the Northeast Harbor Station to provide quarters there. Just a little bit about the Sonysville Fire Station. We didn't increase the size at all. We just renovated. We gutted it out. We're putting in, it's a real basic renovation. We're putting in 3 bunk rooms, a day room, a kitchen, and a small office in the front. The Northeast Harbor Station renovations are a little bit more extensive. We have 3 truck bays right now, so what we're proposing, and the drawings are there, we took a look at them coming in. We're proposing to add a 4th truck bay, and then we're going to add a 2nd story on top of the fire station. The 2nd story, again, will provide bunk rooms, day room for the quarters, but we're also going to have our fire department meeting room there, and we're going to have a fitness room and some storage closets and whatnot through there. So. I want to thank Northeast Harbor Ambulance Service for the support through the last month. They've been very gracious in providing the fire department with funds to hire the extra firefighters that we just hired. My budget didn't include that last year. We didn't know we were going to do this, and I was not able to afford the extra staff that we have now. If it wasn't for the ambulance donating enough money to provide the salaries through July 1st. They're also donating both ambulances eventually. We just took possession of 1 today, or yesterday. Eventually we'll get the 2nd one, and they're also going to donate all the EMS equipment, supplies, and everything like that. So thank you to the ambulance for providing those for us. I think, I guess we'll get to the cost when it comes to the budgets. We know how much the renovations are. And then I'm sure there's going to be some more questions when the budget comes up, so I'll address that later. But that's all I wanted to say. I hope that gives you a little brief overview of where we are, what we're doing. I'll stay here because I'm sure there's going to be some questions and comments.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Chief Bender? Yes, Rick.
In 2022, how much money have you asked us to approve, the voters of the town to approve for physical changes to the fire department?
Can everybody hear Mr. Savage?
Starting at the special town meeting we had, and the funds requested for this alteration.
Are you asking how much more money it's costing the fire department to run the EMS up? Is that?
I'm asking how much money you've asked us to raise in 2022-23.
For operating costs, or?
Are you talking about bond? Talking about debt?
I'm actually talking about the physical changes, but it would be nice to tell us what your new budget is for operating costs.
Okay. I can give you the operating costs right now. In the budget, which you'll see in a few more warrant articles. One increase is $43,000 to share a deputy chief with Bar Harbor. The extra staff to cover fire and EMS was at an extra $1,094,723. I was kind of told to put in an extra $248,000 for per diem staff. Overtime costs was increased by $23,000 due to extra staff. The training I increased by $9,000. Vehicle repairs by $11,000. General repairs by $5,000. Equipment by $5,000. So the operating cost roughly was about $1.4 million extra there. And then, as it says in the warrant article, we're asking for, what is it, Jake? $5.238 million. $5.238 million for the renovations of Northeast Harbor.
So the final figure is approximately $6.5 million. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. 6.238 million, 1 million approved at the special town meeting in March, 5.238 million being proposed tonight.
Yes.
It wasn't clear to me if that number includes the Sonysville renovation physical changes plan in Sonysville as well.
It's a great one.
The $1 million approved at the special town meeting was for the Sonysville project. The $5.238 million being proposed tonight only addresses the Northeast Harbor fire station.
Yes, sir.
When I was on the warrant committee 2 years ago, I talked to you, and nothing was talked about Sonysville. And I brought up the fact that the growth of the town seems to be moving in that direction. And I thought something ought to be done with Sonysville. We boost that up. But I didn't mean that to include what you're now spending for the Northeast Harbor. I meant that to be part of, take out of the Northeast Harbor and spend it on something. I just think that the amount of money that we're doing to add one bay on and quarters, and you have a fitness center, when we have a neighborhood house who has a fitness center, they can get out and work out anytime. That we have in place now. I just think this whole cost is ridiculous. $5.2 million, you're getting one bag and you're getting quarters above a fitness center in a nice meeting room. And I'm just astounded at the cost. I really am. Before anybody else speaks, one of the things I would like is if we could not do a voice vote on this, we do a written ballot, so I'd like to move that we do a written ballot rather than
Second.
That motion, when it's made, it's seconded. It's not a debatable motion, but it's one that we have to vote on. A majority needs to vote in favor of a written ballot in order for us to have a written ballot. So I would then call for a vote. There's been a motion to vote on Article 20 by a written ballot. Those voting in favor of that motion are asking that we vote by a written ballot. Those voting opposed are saying we could do a voice vote, for example. So all those in favor of voting on Article 20 by a written ballot, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed to voting on Article 20 by a written ballot, please say nay.
Nay.
It's my opinion, but you probably ought to do a hand count. That is pretty close, but I think there are more nays than yeas. So I'm going to ask, and we'll count the cards, and this is where your blue card is especially important.
Watch your phone. See ya, thank you.
So you should be watching either Liddy or Claire because they've divided up the house. Or Jen, I'm sorry, or Jen. And all those in favor of voting by a written ballot, if you please so indicate by raising your blue card. All those opposed, you could raise your blue cards. Well, I'm glad I called it to a hand count. There were 41 voting in favor of voting by a written ballot and 37 voting opposed. Therefore, when it comes time to vote on Article 20, we'll vote by a written ballot. Mr. Adams, I've been asked if people, when they speak, would identify who they are.
Do you speak into the mic?
No.
All right, could we... Well, we can. Yeah.
Mike. Can you hear me?
Mike.
Can you hear me?
Mike.
How many service calls did you have this year, 2022? 220?
Actually, I'd prefer if you could address your questions through me. So you're asking...
You asked Mike that?
All right, so you're asking how many service calls the fire department has?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we average about 200 a year. Sometimes 190, 230, but it's usually about 200 plus.
How many of those were actual fires?
in town or mutual aid?
In the town.
In the town, probably had 2, 3.
2 or 3 out of 200 or something. And in 2020, I think you had 200 service calls, and you had no fires. So we seem to be chasing a lot of false alarms, basically. And one of the things when I was on the warrant committee, I think that there should be a charge. If my alarm goes off and you call on me and it's a false alarm, no charge. If my alarm goes off again, then the second time should be a charge, and the third time should be a charge, because it costs a lot of money to bring the fire department down there, and the fire trucks down there, especially in the middle of the night. And people need to take better care of their fire alarm system. I think it's a real burden on the fire department. The other thing I wanted to ask was, why does the fire truck go out every time the ambulance goes out now? Oh, I'm sorry. Would you ask him that?
That's a good question. There's a couple of reasons, and they don't go out on every call. They go out on the majority of the calls, but it is taken on a call-to-call basis. So with the EMS crews, if we get paged out and the ambulance decides that they don't need the extra help, they don't need the extra manpower, we'll withhold the fire truck and we won't respond to them. But last summer we made an agreement with Northeast Harbor Ambulance to provide additional support to them, because again, they were starting to struggle with staffing. There was days where they would have only one EMT on. You need 2 to run an ambulance. You need 1 in the back and 1 to drive. So we got into a practice, and this was agreement we had with the ambulance, that we would start dispatching an engine with the ambulance on almost every call. It's just basically to support them, staff-wise. Just basically to support them staff-wise. But we also received our EMS license last year too, just for the fire truck, 1 fire truck. It's in Northeast Harbor. And these were for the few times, but there have been a few that the Northeast Harbor staff ambulance didn't have any staff on. So we would dispatch an engine with EMS equipment on there, and EMTs, and then we would have to call either Bar Harbor or Southwest to do the transport.
Okay. Bill, would you ask Mike, no, I forgot my question. What the extra bay is going to be used for in the Northeast?
You address that? Yeah, the extra bay is going to be utilized. We'll either park our pickup truck in there, so we won't have to leave it outdoors all year round anymore. Or, more importantly, it gives us the flexibility to move our tanker truck. We only have 1 truck that carries a lot of water to use in rural areas for water supply. It'll give us that ability or flexibility to move that truck from Sonysville down to Northeast if we need to. But the 4th bay really, and this was from an engineering standpoint, was added also to add extra square footage upstairs, because we could not achieve what we were looking for on the 2nd floor without the added floor space downstairs.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes.
Tony, and then Ben.
Howard?
Some of you may know this, some of you may not, but the town office with its fire station was a gift to the town at no cost. The Sonysville fire station and meeting room was a gift to the town at no cost. And the Seal Harbor fire station and meeting room wasn't quite 100% gift, but the lion's share was picked up by somebody else. I support this article, and I think it's time for us to pony up and pay our way with this fire station improvement.
Bill, I got a couple questions for Mike. First question is, how many bids have we received for this $5 million project? And the second question is, if Saunasville was half-staffed by Bar Harbor, are they split the bill on the simple $1 billion overhaul of Sonysville?
The answer to the first question is we received 2 bids. We had 4 that was interested. 3 were going to submit and went back out the last minute because they couldn't make some of the commitments in the bid package. And the answer to your second question is no, we have not had that conversation with Bal Harbor for them to pay for renovations of a Mount Reserve fire station.
Thank you, Ken. Yes, Mr. Savage.
My question is, we were asked to vote on this approval, but we haven't raised the money yet. And we're already talking about $6.5 million for one item. I know the school budget's going up substantially this year. Some. Our overall mill rate, or if we're going to be reassessed, but I'm very curious about how this is affecting our mill rate for the coming tax year.
Maybe you can identify yourself too for those that
Sure.
are not fortunate enough to meet you.
My name is Jake Wright, I'm the finance director for the town. In this current budget that's being proposed, both the Sonysville improvements and the Northeast Harbor fire station improvements, the bonds that have been approved and hopefully will be approved, are not included in the fiscal year 23 budget. The bids that were submitted on behalf of the Sonysville project and have been submitted and gone out on behalf of the Northeast Harbor fire station project all are mandated that payments would not start until the 2024 fiscal year. So in terms of your mill rate tonight, it has absolutely no effect at all.
Mr. Savage.
That really doesn't answer the question. We're raising a substantial amount of money, and what can we look forward to for a mill rate increase to pay this debt off?
Sure. So first we can kind of look, I think that it's important to look at historical debt to have context in terms of what's being proposed tonight. As mentioned, outstanding debt as of tonight is $14.294 million. In context, that is actually substantially lower than what we've seen in the past several years because we've been paying down at rates that are exceeding new approvals. The rate, the ratio that the state sets for debt to valuation is 7.5%. We currently sit at 0.61%, which is actually lower than our counterparts in Bal Harbor and also elsewhere. In terms of mill rate, how it will affect the budget going forward, you will see I did an analysis. It looks like associated with the bond that was approved in Article 19 and the bond being proposed in Article 20, in fiscal year 24, an increase to the debt service budget line of about $446,000. To put that into context, that is an increase of going from $1.759 million up to $2.205 million. So that's the budget effect that it will have. Now that will be laid in with all of the other budget items, and the debt service accounts for I think right around 10% of the overall municipal budget.
We're still avoiding the question, what is the mill rate increase?
We haven't calculated the mill rate for fiscal year 20.
So if you look in the warrant on page 75, there is an estimated tax rate calculation. If we approve the budget as we propose tonight, the mill rate is estimated to go up a nickel. So if you have a $600,000 home, last year's taxes were just under $5,000. Adding a nickel to the mill rate adds $30 to your tax bill. Does that answer your question?
How about 2024?
You add $450,000 to the debt service, that will add 20 cents to the mill rate. Everything else being equal. it's hard to project because we don't know what our tax base is going to do over 2 years.
But we're also going to be faced with new evaluation. So I doubt if anybody's property is going to decrease in value. You're going to raise the mill rate as well as the valuation of our property. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're getting closer to an answer.
But it's not even across the board. It's not going to be the same increase for everybody. So it's hard for us to estimate.
Some people will pay more.
That's right. It's a re-equalization of the assessment.
But everybody's going to be reassessed, and it's pretty doubtful that anybody's property is going to be assessed for less than it is today. Am I right?
Would you sell your property for less than it was?
You're answering your own question as a joke, but it's not a joke. For people who live in the town, they're on fixed incomes, and we know our population is decreasing. I'm just trying to get an answer what it's cost to live in the town of Mount Missouri.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments or questions? Oh, yes.
Just wanted to know what they did about the water in Sonysville for the Sonysville fire station.
So the question is, what was done about the water for the Sonysville fire station?
We are currently working with a well driller to drill the well up there.
Is that in the estimate as well then?
That was in the bond, the finances approved at the special town meeting for the Sonysville fire station.
Have you started rigging or pounding or whatever?
No, they haven't started drilling yet.
You can't connect to the sewer and the water there for town?
We are connected to the town sewer, but there is no municipal water in Sonysville. No, I think all you guys are on a well. Have been for many years.
Chief, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Thank you, Carmen. Are there any other questions or comments before we ask our ballots? Yes.
I just want to say one thing, and that's it. I really hope that everybody realizes the money that we've spent on the beautification of downtown Main Street, Northeast Harbor, is something we all keep in mind when we're getting ready to vote. Because I really think that long before the beautification situation occurred, we should have been looking a little bit down the road and not kicking the can down the road. Because EMS services, fire services, public safety services should be at the top of this town's list when it comes to the people who live here, the children, the young people, the middle-aged people, and the elderly people. We need them. I'm here to state I've had to use them, and they're great. And I hope and pray you understand that when you get ready to vote. I don't use Northeast very often. I live in Hall Court, but I grew up in Northeast. We used to call it a one-horse town. The Coons family had the one horse. And I'll tell you right now, those steel poles, I took my first ride down Northeast since I really had a chance to look at them. They are interesting, to say the least. And I do not like the idea that a pole that my grandfather probably climbed as a lineman in the telephone company is now steel and is actually more leaning than the original poles that were taken out. Take a look at those steel poles. F.T. Brown, near Tim Murphy's, I don't know if they're steel or fiberglass, but let me tell you, they're lean. And they don't look very nice with the little G clefts up at the top. That's it.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, Mr. Evans.
Who's going to be responsible from the town to manage this project? Who's going to have the responsibility for overseeing the management of this project? Because she brought up Main Street, and it's a classic example of nobody was responsible there for what we do.
John, part of the bond, part of the funding we're asking for includes construction, administrative, services, and that's where we pay somebody to oversee those projects for us.
No, but we don't have anybody in the town that's part of the town, that works for the town, that will be overseeing any of this? It's going to be something you contract out?
So you're saying overseeing like somebody there 8 hours a day? Right, right. Well, we're talking about a fire station.
We will take responsibility for it, because everybody says, well, it's somebody, what? Go ahead. No, I can respond to that.
Well, if you would, I'd like to get back to I'd like to get back to the topic that we're about to vote on. We're going to vote by a written ballot. So, I think
this applies to that.
All right. Okay. So
who's really managing this?
All right.
Who's responsible for the town?
All right.
To oversee the whole project?
So Mr. Adams' question is there a person who's been designated by the town, within the town government, to be have the overall management of this project? Is that a fair summary? Okay.
So I've been working with the design team that we hired for this project for the last 18 months. They report to me. So I guess if you're looking for a point person that's going to be responsible for this project, it's going to be me. I can't be on scene every day, 8 hours a day. So we've hired somebody through the construction administrator to do that duties for us. Typically, we meet with these people every 2 weeks to get a briefing of what's been done and what's going to be done in the next 2 weeks. So I meet with these individuals regularly just to keep up to date on what's going on. But included in this is the administrative services that we have somebody watching these projects for us.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Jake.
I'd just like to know how much money this town has spent on ambulance services in the past.
So Mr. McFarland wants to know how much money the town has spent on ambulance services in the past years.
I'll take a shot at that.
I can answer that if you like. Just over the last several years.
You're not on it.
Really, we had spent zero over the last few years when we've been making a $10,000 donation to the ambulance service. So since 1939, we probably put in less than $40,000 or $50,000. It's like somebody said before, we've been very fortunate in this town to have everything given to us. And now we're in a situation where it's time that we step up to the plate and let's hit this one out of the park.
So we'll now call this on for a vote. We'd ask that you form a line coming down the center. You need to have your blue card, because your blue card will give you access to a yellow card, and it's the yes and no tear-off card that you can put into the ballot box. And I think what we'll do, because this is a written ballot, once the votes have been passed, we'll draw the first two raffles.
I'll go last.
We're voting on written ballot. Yes, yeah, I put the written message in this card. Hey, well, how are you? Nice to see you. Remember, we're voting on Article 20, so if you're voting yes, you're voting in favor of Article 20. If you're voting no, you're voting against. Yeah, hi, how are you?
His wife is in.
Yes.
Very nice.
Very, very. Yeah.
station are you from?
Thank you. So we already decided to do it.
She said she might want.
No, is that really? No.
She's sick of it.
Is there anyone who hasn't voted yet? Any other votes? So I will declare that the voting has ceased. We'll now begin tabulating your votes. We have three things to raffle off tonight. But before the first raffle, I'd like to invite the chair of our Board of Selectmen, John McCauley, forward. We have one member of the current Board of Selectmen that did not run for re-election. So, Matt, we wanted to recognize you for your service. Also, what we plan to do is John's going to speak about your service in a minute, and then we're going to ask you to pick the first winning ticket for the raffle.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank a former board member, Matt Goodhart, for his nearly a decade of service to the town. Really appreciate the time you put in. We're going to miss you a lot. You're a great foil to most of our good ideas.
They can't hear you. John, they can't hear you.
You can't.
Speak into it.
I'd like to thank you, Matt, for your nearly a decade of service to the town on the board. Your ideas have always been refreshing and quite often contrary to mine, but that's all right. I'd like to invite you up to draw the lucky winner of one of our great composters.
As John knows, I was never good with numbers, so we'll see what happens. 768160. 768160. Ringer.
Yeah, Tony.
Ranger. I'll take the Ranger. All right. Yeah, write that down. She's a cash deliver. Ranger.
So there must be some significance in the fact that just retired selectmen picked out a ticket belonging to the newly elected selectmen. And here's the significance. He has selected the rain barrel. Thank you, Matt. So the results of the tabulation of the written ballot are those in favor of passage of Article 20, 61. Those opposed, 25. The no votes, 1. So Article 20 is passed. Article 21, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept and expend on behalf of the town additional state, federal, and other funds received during the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 for town purposes, provided that such additional funds do not require expenditure of local funds not previously appropriated. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 21. Question, discussion, or comment on Article 21? Hearing none, we'll call Article 21 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to recommend passage of Article 21, if you'd please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. My opinion, Article 21 passes. Article 22. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to approve July 1 each year as the date at which all taxes shall be due and payable, providing that all unpaid taxes on September 1 of each year shall be charged interest at an annual rate of 4% per year. Is there a motion?
Yes, the Warrant Committee recommends passage. Second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 22. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 22 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage of Article 22, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 22 so passes. Article 23, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the tax collector to enter into a standard tax club agreement with taxpayers whereby, one, the taxpayer agrees to pay specified monthly payments to the town based on the taxpayer's estimated and actual tax obligation for current year property taxes, real estate and/or personal. 2, the town agrees to waive interest on timely payments. 3, the town authorizes the tax collector to accept payment of taxes prior to commitment of taxes. 4, the agreement automatically terminates if 2 consecutive payments are missed and the taxpayer thereupon becomes subject to the same due date and interest rate as all other taxpayers, all other non-participating taxpayers. 5, only taxpayers who are paid in full on their property tax obligations may participate. And 6, interested taxpayers shall apply annually for participation by the date shown on the application date, and application forms to be determined by the tax collector. Is there a motion?
There is. The warrant committee recommends passage.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 23. Question or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 23 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage, if you please so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's my opinion that the Article 23 is passed. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to authorize the tax collector to accept prepayment of property taxes not yet committed, not to exceed the estimated amount to be committed in 2022 with no interest to be paid on the same. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends passage.
Second.
Seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 24. Question or comment? Hearing none, we'll call Article 24 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage of Article 24, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion Article 24 passes as so moved. Article 25. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to set the interest rate to be paid by the town for abated taxes that have been paid at the rate of 2% per year. Is there a motion?
The warrant committee recommends passage of Article 25.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 25. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 25 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage of Article 25, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 25 is so passed. Article 26. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize expenditures to pay any tax abatements granted by the assessor, Board of Assessment Review, or Board of Selectmen, together with any interest due thereon from the town during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022, in an aggregate amount not to exceed the property tax commitment overlay. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends passage. Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 26. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 26 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 26 passes. Article 27, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose by public bid of town-owned property other than real property with a value of $10,000 or less, under such terms and conditions as it deems advisable. Motion?
Warrant committee recommends passage.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 27. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 27 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 27 is passed. Article 28. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell at public auction or by advertised sealed bid, and to convey titles obtained under tax deeds and under deeds of conveyance to the inhabitants of the town any land and or buildings, including trailers, in lieu of payment of taxes, except that the selectmen have the power to authorize redemption. Municipal officers shall use the special sale process required by the statute for qualifying homestead property if they choose to sell it to anyone other than the former owners. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends passage.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 28. Question, comment, or discussion in regards to the motion before us? Hearing none, we'll call Article 28 for a vote. All those in favor of the motion recommending passage, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. I find that Article 28 passes as so moved. Article 29. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to contract for services in amounts not to exceed appropriations for same, under such terms and conditions as it deems advisable. Motion.
Warrant Committee recommends passage of Article 29.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee recommending passage of Article 29. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 29 on for a vote. All those in favor of recommending passage, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 29 is so passed as moved. Article 30. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to transfer $700,000 from the undesignated fund balance account number 138,300 to reduce the 2022-2023 tax commitment. Is there a motion?
Yes, the Warrant Committee recommends passage.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 30 as written. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the motion before us for Article 30 on for a vote. All those in favor of recommending passage of Article 30 as written, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion Article 30 is passed. And so moved. Article 31. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to transfer $300,000 from the Capital Gains Reserve account number 424,202 to reduce the 2022-2023 tax commitment. Is there a motion?
There is. The Warrant Committee recommends passage of Article 31.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee to recommend passage of Article 31. Question, comment, or discussion with regards to the motion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 31 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 31 is so passed. Article 32. To see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and or appropriate as revenue through excise taxes, service fees, and miscellaneous sources for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, the Warrant Committee recommends a figure of $1,496,647.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee, the figure that appears as printed in the warrant itself as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Is there any question, comment, or discussion in regards to the motion before us? Hearing none, we'll call Article 32 on for a vote. All those in favor of approving Article 32 at the figure of $1,496,647, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion that the article passes as the figure is printed as recommended by the Board. Article 33. To see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert vote to raise and appropriate for Department 200 through 251 General Government, Governing Body, Board of Selectmen, Municipal Management, Town Clerk, Registrar, Elections, Planning Board, Finance, Treasurer, Tax Collector, Assessment, Code Enforcement, Unallocated Funds, Human Resources, and Technology for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
The Warrant Committee recommends passage of a figure of $1,541,146.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded by the Warrant Committee. The figure is printed as the recommendation in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion in regards to that motion? Hearing none, we'll call that on for a vote. Again, the figure we're talking about approving is $1,541,146. All those in favor, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. My opinion that as moved by the Warrant Committee, that figure has passed. Article 34. To see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate the Department 300 General Assistance Support for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, the Warrant Committee recommends a figure of $5,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee, the figure of $5,000 for Article 34. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 34 on for a vote. All those in favor of passing Article 34 at the figure of $5,000, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. We're into the second half of the warrant. Article 35. Article 34 has passed as moved by the warrant committee. Article 35. To see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 350, Rural Wastewater Support, for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Here is the warrant committee recommends a figure of $205,805.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee, the figure of $205,805. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 35 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, which is to approve Article 35 if the figure is printed in the warrant, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 35 passes as so moved. Article 36. To see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 406 streetlights for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $10,500 for streetlights.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee, the figure of $10,500. Question, comment, or discussion for the motion on Article 36? Yes, Katie.
Is this for new lights or for light bulbs or for maintenance? Because there are a lot of lights that are out of town and have been for quite a while.
Can everybody hear the question? So it's a Tony?
Electricity.
What?
Power.
Power.
Light.
What about the ones that are out? Is that not part of it?
Bill, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
If you have one that's out, if you call the police department, we'll get it fixed. We'll send Tony. No, we keep track of all the maintenance and work with Public Works to coordinate the repairs.
Thank you for enlightening us. Any other comment, question with regards to the motion before us on Article 36? Hearing none, we'll call that on for a vote. All in favor of approving Article 36 at $10,500, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. In my opinion, that article is passed and so moved. Article 37. To see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 401, 405, 407, 408, in public safety, police, and communications dispatch for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Here is the warrant committee recommends a figure of $1,465,202.
Yes, seconded.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed for Article 37 in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 37 on for a vote. Again, we're voting on the figure of $1,465,202. All those in favor of that motion, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 37 passes as so moved. Article 38. To see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 403, 404, 409, Public Safety, Fire Department, Hydrants, and Emergency Management for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $2,271,588.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee on Article 38, the figure of $2,271,588. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, I will call that on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us in Article 38, which is recommending the figure is printed in the warrant, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. No. It's my opinion that those voting in favor outnumber those voting opposed, and therefore Article 38 passes as so moved. Article 39, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 501, 515, 520, 525. Public Works, Roads, Waste Management, Buildings and Grounds, Parks and Cemeteries, and 530, Environmental Sustainability for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
The warrant committee recommends a figure of $2,880,461.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant for Article 39. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 39 on for a vote. All those in favor of approving Article 39, if the figure is so moved and is printed in the warrant, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 39 so passes. Article 40, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 505 and 506 sewers, wastewater treatment for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $1,134,258.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion with regards to the motion before us? Hearing none, we'll call Article 40 on for a vote. All those in favor of approving Article 40 at the figure of $1,134,258, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion that Article 40 is approved as so moved. Article 41, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 605 Recreation, Public Pool, Utilities and Maintenance for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Here is the warrant committee recommends $5,900.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure of $5,900. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 41 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to approve Article 41 at the figure of $5,900, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion that Article 41 passes as so moved. Article 42, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 701, Economic Community Development for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $10,000.
And second by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 42 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to approve Article 42 at the figure of $10,000, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 42 passes as so moved. Article 43, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate the Department 801 debt service for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
The warrant committee recommends a figure of $1,736,705.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 43 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending approval of Article 43, if the figure is printed in the warrant, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. My opinion that Article 43 is passed. Article 44, to see what sum the inhabitants of the passed the figure is so moved. Article 44, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 851, Libraries, Village Improvement Societies, Recreation, and Public Social Service Agencies for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $324,095.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure of $324,095. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 44 on to a vote. All those in favor, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It's my opinion Article 44 has passed as the figure is so moved and is printed in the warrant. I've been asked to ask people if they'd be willing to stay because we're getting to the point where we could lose a quorum and that would force us to postpone the rest of this meeting. So anybody who can stay would be much appreciated. Article 45. To see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 991 capital improvement plan transfers for the 2022-2023 town budget. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant for Article 45. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 45 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us in Article 45 to approve the figures printed in the warrant, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It's my opinion that is passed also. I would ask for unanimous consent that I dispense with reading the full text of the motions at this point. If anyone wishes me to do so in a particular motion, just let me know. We're going to pause for just a minute to make sure we still have a quorum. So, folks, we have 56 voters. If we get below 50, then we have to put off the meeting until we get So, Article 46. This is the article that starts, shall the town of Mount Desert town be authorized to appropriate an amount not to exceed $360,000 from the capital gains reserve account. I will dispense from reading the rest of that article with everyone's consent. Is there a motion from the warrant committee?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends passage.
Second.
The warrant committee recommends moved and seconds passage of Article 46 as written. Question or comment? Hearing none, we'll call Article 46 on for vote. If anybody feels confused as we move in this manner, just let me know. We'll now vote on Article 46, which has been recommended for passage by the warrant committee. All those in favor, if you indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 46 passes. Article 47, this reads, shall the town of Mount Desert be authorized to appropriate an amount not to exceed $220,000 from the capital gains reserve account number 400-24202. And motion, the text thereon continues. Is there a motion from the warrant committee?
The warrant committee recommends passage of the whole text.
Warrant committee recommends passage of Article 47 as written. Has seconded that motion. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call Article 47 on to the vote. All those in favor of passing Article 47 as written, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Opinion Article 47 passes. Article 48. Shall the town of Mount Desert, the town be authorized to appropriate an amount not to exceed $75,000 from the capital gains reserve account number 400-24202. The article then continues in text. Motion from the warrant.
The warrant committee recommends passage of Article 48 as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 48 as written. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 48 on to the vote. All those in favor of passing Article 48 as written, if you please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 48 is so passed. We now come to Article 49. Ladies and gentlemen, Article 49 is one that requires a written ballot. This year, because of the funds involved, we require a written ballot. So, just see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to increase the property tax levy limit by $747,972. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 49. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call then for folks to assemble for a written ballot to override the tax cap here. And as soon as we are finished voting, then we can get our seats and we'll do the second raffle while we're tabulating the results. number is 7, 6, oh, number 7, 6, 8, 1, 9, 1. If nobody comes forward, then we're going to draw another. It's 7, 6, 8, 1, 9, 1. All right, we'll choose another number. Seven, 6, 8, 2, 2, 7. Tony. I'll tell you this. So the tally on Article 49 is yes 53, no 3. So we have exceeded and passed Article 49. Article 50. To see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to ratify the Board of Selectmen's approval of the Marina Proprietary Fund budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends passage.
In this particular case, the warrant committee has followed my request in recommending ratification of Article 50. The actual recommendation of the warrant committee was to make no recommendation, but you folks are doing exactly what I requested that you do. So you made a motion and you seconded it to ratify Article 50. Is there a question or comment? Hearing none, we'll call Article 50 on for a vote. All those in favor of ratification or recommending passage of Article 50, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 50 has so been ratified or passed. Article 51, shall the town of Mount Desert be authorized to appropriate an amount not to exceed $448,000 for Harbor's Marina Enterprise Fund. It then proceeds with the text of the article as appears in the warrant. Is there a motion?
The warrant committee recommends passage of Article 51 as written.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee to recommend passage of Article 51 as written. Is there a question or comment? Hearing none, we'll call Article 51 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us recommending passage of Article 51, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 51 so passes. We now will come to the school articles, which will conclude this warrant. There are there are 3 sections or 2 motions in the school articles that will require an amendment because of late developments. Article 52, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for regular instruction for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30, 2023. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $2,069,147.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee the figure of $2,069,147. Is there a motion to amend? Yes, Ms. Marshall.
I move that the amount the school board is authorized to expend for regular instruction be amended to $1,985,147.
Is there a second to that motion? Moved and seconded that the amount originally moved by the warrant committee be reduced to the figure of $1,985,147. And we have a concise explanation as to the reason. Thank you.
There's a staff member who resigned, and the administration believes we do not need to fill that position. So this reflects a reduction in that cost.
Did everyone hear that explanation? Okay. What, anybody raise your hand if you couldn't hear it?
There's a staff member who resigned, and the administration believes we do not need to fill that position.
Any question or discussion on the motion to amend, which in effect will reduce the main motion? I'll call the motion to amend on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend the main motion to $1,985,147, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to amend carries. The main motion now. Any further question or discussion on that main motion? Hearing none, we'll call that on for a vote. All those in favor of approving Article 52 as a figure of $1,985,147, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes as amended at that figure. Article 53, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for special education. And again, with unanimous consent, I'll read the cost center caption. Dispense with the reading of the rest of the article. Is there a motion?
Board committee recommends $784,733.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant as $784,733. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 53 on for vote. All those in favor of the motion before us, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 53 passes as printed. Article 54, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for career and technical education. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends zero.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is zero. Article 54, question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call that on for a vote. All those in favor of recommending zero for Article 54, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 54 passes at zero. Article 55, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for other instruction. Is there a motion?
There is. The warrant committee recommends $95,944.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion? The question is, what is other instruction? Nancy?
That would be like co-curricular, extracurricular, and your regular summer school together.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Evans. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll call Article 55 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to recommend $95,944 for Article 55, if you please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Article 55 so passes. Article 56, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for student and staff support. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $544,651.
Second.
Warrant committee has recommended the figure is printed in the warrant and seconded that motion. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 56 on for a vote. Again, we're voting on the figure is printed in the warrant for that article. All those in favor, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. In my opinion, Article 56 passes at that figure. Article 57, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for system administration. Is there a motion?
There is. Motion is $119,673.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 57 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to recommend the figure of $119,673 for Article 57. If you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. My opinion, Article 57 passes as so written in the warrant. Article 58, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for school administration for the fiscal year. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $270,096.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 58 on for a vote. All those in favor of approving Article 58 at the figure is printed in the warrant, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 58 so passes as moved. Article 59, to see what sum the school board would be authorized to expend for transportation and buses. Is there a motion?
The warrant committee recommends $180,820.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee for the figure is printed in the warrant for Article 59. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 59 on for a vote. All those in favor of the motion before us, which is to approve Article 59 and the figure is printed in the warrant, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. My opinion, Article 59 passes. Article as so moved. Article 60, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for facilities maintenance. Is there a motion?
Yes, the warrant committee recommends a figure of $595,868.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 60 on for a vote. All those in favor of passage of Article 60 at the figure of $595,868, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 60 so passes as moved. Article 61, to see what sum the school board will be authorized to expend for debt service and other commitments. Is there a motion?
Sure is. The warrant committee recommends $285,154.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee. The figure is printed in the warrant. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 61 on for a vote. All those in favor of approving Article 61 if the figure is printed in the warrant, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 61 so passes as moved. Article 62, to see what sum the school board would be authorized to expend for all other expenditures. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded by the warrant committee the figure of $75,000. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 62 on for a vote. All those in favor of passage of Article 62 at the figure of $75,000, if you please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. My opinion that Article 61 so passes. The next article is a hand count. Again, with unanimous consent, I'll dispense with full reading of the article. Article 63, to see what sum the voters of the town of Mount Desert will appropriate for the total cost of funding public education. Is there a motion?
There is. The warrant committee recommends $1,690,748.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee, the figure of $1,690,748. Question, comment, or discussion? Yes, Mr. Adams.
I see above where it says recommend $1,989,774. Who's that recommending?
Nancy, yeah.
The higher figure includes what the state has for our subsidy. So it's a total of the state and local share. And then you just raise your local share, the lower figure.
Any other questions? If not, we'll call this on for a hand count. All those in favor of approving Article 63 at the figure as written in the warrant of $1,690,748, if you would please raise the blue cards. All those opposed would raise your cards. The tally is 56 in favor, 0 opposed. So Article 63 passes as so moved. Article 64 is another hand count. Article 64, to see what sum the voters of the town of Mount Desert will raise and appropriate for the annual payments on debt service previously approved by the legislative body. It goes on with the rest of the text in the warrant. Is there a motion? So the warrant committee recommends a figure of $285,154. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call this on for a hand count. All those in favor of approving Article 4 at the figure as moved by the warrant committee, if you would please so indicate by raising your blue card. Tally is 56 favor, 0 opposed, so Article 64 so passes. Article 65 requires a written ballot, and at this time, when we vote, after we voted, we'll do the third raffle drawing. And also, I want to give Brian Langley, who's been waiting patiently, an opportunity to address us. Is there any other candidates? Here we have the traditionally in Mount Desert allowed them to address the town meeting. Article 65, to see what sum the voters of the town of Mount Desert will raise and appropriate in additional local funds for school purposes. Is there a motion?
There is. The warrant committee recommends $2,221,708.
And second.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee, the figure of $2,221,708. Is there a motion to amend? Is there a second to that motion to amend? Moved and seconded. So the motion to amend would reduce the main motion to $2,137,708. Does anyone ask for an explanation of the reasons for the motion to amend? Is it the same when it's before? Yes. Okay, thank you. Any question or discussion on the motion to amend? If not, we can vote on the motion to amend by an oral vote. All those in favor of amending the main motion to $2,137,708, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. You've now amended the main motion. When you're doing the the written ballot on Article 65, the figure that you're voting on is $2,137,708. Any other question or discussion? If not, I'll invite people to come forward to participate in the last written ballot. I will declare that the voting is now ceased. We have three important things to do right now. First thing, I'm going to introduce Brian Langley, who's been here. He's going to make some very brief remarks, and I'm going to ask him to pick the last winning lottery ticket. And then John McCauley has a very special award to present.
Good evening, folks. My name is Brian Langley. I live in Ellsworth. I'm running candidate for Senate District 7, of which the seat that I held for 8 years before terming out. My wife and I own the Union River Lobster Pot downtown Ellsworth. But 42 years ago, I lived on Maple Lane right down the street here. Spent a summer here while I was working. You have one of the craftiest moderators in Hancock County, and that is to put a politician between you and going home and seeing if they'll recognize just the pressures that are on them. But I was known in the legislature for being very brief. One of the things I came and been going around Hancock County to talk about is more of a public service announcement about the upcoming June 14th election. Not everybody pays attention really closely, but Senator Louis Lucchini from Ellsworth resigned to take a federal job in January, which caused by Constitution to have a special election, which was scheduled for June 14th. So that also happens to be primary day. So in this case, and probably once only, you can vote for me twice and it won't be illegal. So there'll be a special ballot for the special election for Senate District 7, of which the session has already ended. So it's sort of a moot point, but it's important. And then the primary is for the November election. So I thank you for your indulgence, and I really learned a lot tonight, and it's really important for someone who's going to do this job to come around and see the town meetings and really understand what's important to your community. So thank you very much for your patience, and I will try to draw the winning number here for you tonight. Okay, the winning number is 768-176. There you go.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's called the kitchen table.
We have 2 more articles to do after I announce the tabulation for this. But as soon as I've done that, so on this written ballot, we had 55 in favor and 2 opposed. And now it's my privilege, before we get to the okay. Well, I've been asked to do the hand count. So Article 65 has passed by the written ballot. Article 66. To see what sum the voters of the town of Mount Desert will authorize the school board to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022. And it then continues on with the text of that article. Is there a motion?
Yes. Warren Committee recommends a figure of $5,021,086, please.
Moved and seconded by the warrant committee the sum of $5,021,086. Is there a motion to amend?
There is. I move that the amount that the voters of the town of Mount Desert authorize the school board to expend be amended to $4,937,086.
In a second. Moved and seconded to amend the main motion to the figure of $4,937,086. Question, comment, or discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, I'll call that on for a voice vote. All those in favor of amending the main motion to $4,937,086, please so indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The main motion is now amended to the figure consistent with that amendment. I will now ask if there's any additional comment, question, or discussion with regards to Article 66 as amended. Hearing none, we'll call this on for a hand count. So all those in favor of passage of Article 66 at the figure of $4,937,086, please raise your blue card. tally is 58 in favor, none opposed. If we stay here, we're going to get more. Before we have our very last article, and again, we'll need to have the quorum to vote on that, I'd invite the chairman of our Board of Selectmen, John McCollum, to make a presentation of the Spirit of Miracle.
Okay, I'll try and make this as short as I can. For those of you who read my letter in the town report, I feel pretty strongly about engagement in democracies and volunteerism. And in 1987, Jack McDermott, governor of Maine, had an idea to award the Spirit of Freedom to Mainers that were really had displayed incredible volunteer spirit and community spirit. To this day, about 100 plus communities across the state will award the Spirit of Freedom Award. And this year, I would like to give this to a fellow I've known for a couple of decades, at least, and been involved with on several committees, including the Warrant Committee, the Sustainability Committee, and some others I'm sure I'm missing. And if I can ever get it out of the sleeve, we'll be in good shape. Phil Nicholson.
Article 67, in addition to the amounts in Articles 52 to 66, shall the school board be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from state or federal grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year 2022-2023 for school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. Is there a motion, Phil? Jerry.
Warrant Committee recommends passage.
Okay. The Warrant Committee has moved and seconded to recommend passage. Question, comment, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call Article 67 on for a vote. All those in favor of recommending passage of Article 67, if you would please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It's my opinion that Article 67 is passed. There would be no other business to be brought before us tonight. Would someone make my favorite motion? I have a motion to adjourn, and it's seconded. It's not a debatable motion. All those in favor, if you would indicate your assent by please standing up. Thank you very much. Bye.